first memory of the park was actually when we were about to buy the house. Me and my partner actually sat on one of the benches in the park. It was one of the things where we thought, actually, the park adds something to this community. It was there that we then went, this looks like a great place to live. We didn't obviously know at the time that the park was going to play such a big role in our lives in the future. Well, the park's been a resource to the local community since 1926 when it was established. There's a lot of people who've lived in and around Greenfields for lifetime. So it's a really interesting community, and the park is really a hub for the community.
When I was about 5 or 6, I used to come down here because it was a lovely open space, and there was a swing here. That was the big thing, and a seesaw, but I couldn't get on the seesaw because I couldn't climb on that. I think this would be a great loss if we lost this piece of land. It's open to anybody, all day, forever, and it's somewhere they can go.
Mum's story is a very good story of somebody who benefited greatly from these sort of open spaces. So throughout the 1930s, she made use of this park, but then it was a stepping stone also to other parks across the road in St Michael's Street and Castlefields and towards the Weir, and that's where she met my father. And that's what the value of this sort of open space has. This is where people socialise and also where they get their identity from.
Ready?
Public spaces are incredibly important to local communities. They bring a huge range of benefits. So they're social spaces where people come together, meet their neighbours, build relationships and really get connected to their local places. Locality is the national membership network for local community organisations. We've been campaigning to save our spaces over the last few years to try and reverse the trend that we've been seeing towards this big sell-off of public spaces. And really, I think it comes down to pride of place. So, when we think about the places we live, the places we call home, we think about the people we live with, but also we think about the physical environment that we live in. And it's incredibly important to building that sense of connection.
The land we're talking about at Greenfields Recreation Ground is absolutely critical to this neighbourhood. As the Playing Fields Association, we cover a lot of different planning applications for the loss of land, and one of the main concerns we have is what is the need of the community.
The council sold the land for development. The amount that's been lost is roughly about a third of the park. The development was for houses, high-end value houses, so it's not social housing, and that was in 2017. Basically, part of the issue that the community got is to actually get to the houses, a road has to be built through the entrance of the park. We were being told that this piece of land had not been part of the park. It was taken at face value for a long period of time until the community themselves started doing some research, and the research showed that the land was indeed purchased as part of the original recreation ground. And I think that really lit a fire under the community. I think then once they knew that actually the council was selling a land that was held in trust, that's when the campaigning began in earnest.
We need our green spaces. There's plenty of other brownfield sites around Shrewsbury that can be built on. This has historically always been previously allotments and then part of the park. So I really don't see any need for it. There are better places to build.
We all thought once the community got together and the momentum got behind the community, I think the community felt that there was then some sort of level of empowerment around the community saying with one voice, we don't want this development to go ahead. What we found instead was that the community was basically being seen as the enemy. We found out that we could go down a legal route, and the community decided to pursue that as a community group. And from there we started doing all sorts of fundraising events for our legal action. But actually what's been more important than that is actually the way that brought the community together.
Public places are so important because they provide a meeting place for people to be able to play games, meet with their dogs and get to know each other. I was a stranger here 5 years ago. I'm certainly not anymore, and it's directly because of the park.
The council doesn't seem to listen. They're far too involved with internal politics, or there's a lack of money. A community group seems to have the passion, commitment and the awareness and the determination. So thank God we have people that are leading us and that we can all join in.
So the original legal action that the committee took was through a judicial review in 2019. Now we've got to the Supreme Court, I think that things have changed quite considerably with that, in that our case at the Supreme Court is really looking at the whole nature of custodianship, lands which are held in trust. Hopefully what it might do is get councils to think again about whether or not they can dispose of their public assets.
It's really important that community groups come together and campaign to protect these spaces. We've seen loads of great examples all around the country where there have been public buildings and spaces that have been under threat, that the council maybe can't keep running, so have been looking to sell off. But the communities come together, taken on ownership, and in loads of cases they're running those spaces more successfully than they were before. So it's really important that communities get connected to each other around the country, build strength from each other, and really kind of together, I guess, we can make a step change in community ownership.
We are now regularly contacted by other groups who are saying, this has happened in our area, we've got the same issue, the same problem. A lot of councils have suffered a lot of financial cutback, and that pressure is then migrating into what have we got which is of value? How can we raise some money without really thinking about, well, what happens once the asset is lost? You know, once they're gone, you can't get them back.